I got a lot going on today, so I can't fart around. I mean, I got to set up maybe a certain saw blade on the table saw. I got to cut some legs. I'm trying to get this thing done as fast as possible. But before I do anything, let's do the thinking part. Come on, follow me. Come on, here we go. Chip, chip, here we go. Take a look at what I'm making. Take a look at what I have. I have my 4 legs. Remember the last time I left you guys away back at the ranch? I cut those side supports or the bottom supports that are going to go over here. Now I have to cut out this notch in this area to allow for that support to go there. And remember, I said to you something about the size of this, that this measurement is now different than this measurement. Well, I want to mark out exactly the way these are going to go to allow for a rabbet to be cut here. And I'm going to cut a dado in here for that long stretcher piece. But I'm not going to do that yet. I was going to do that, try to do that today and incorporate it today. But I'm going to get the stretcher piece first before I do this. And that's something you guys should always do, is have the piece that has to go into whatever dado or rabbet you're going to cut, so you can custom cut it so it fits in absolutely perfect. So here's what I'm going to do. Remember, I marked this as my 4-inch distance up from the bottom. If I look at this piece, the piece doesn't go this way. It's actually going to go this way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a handy dandy pencil and put an S where my side support is going to go. How do I choose it? I have a surface here and a surface here. Which surface looks better for the outside? This one doesn't look nearly as good as this side. I'm going to flip this rascal around because people are going to see what's on the outside here. My support, that long stretcher piece, is going to go there. So what I'll also do is put a little mark on the top of this, nothing specific, but I'm going to cut a rabbet to fit into this dado here so I know exactly where I'm cutting this. I'm going to do the same thing on this surface. This is kind of dirty. This is definitely cleaner. That's going to be the outside. My side support is going to go here, which means when I cut my rabbet, the rabbet is going to get cut out there. The rabbet's going to get cut out here. So I already marked this out exactly the way I want it to go. Now I have to cut a board or cut a dado in this size, which means I have to do it here. I got to do it there, got to do it there, got to do it there. Most of the time, I'll tell you guys, when you're cutting a dado, use a single blade. This time, remember, I'm cutting almost 1.5 inches. On 4 cuts, maybe it's best to use the dado. That's why I can't sit around and talk. I got to get this done. So what I want to do is I'm going to leave these pieces here. I'm going to take the legs, and when I do this, I am going to have it so that these are common. In other words, this one is going to get cut this way. This one's getting cut this way. This one's going to get cut this way. This one's going to get cut this way. This is my most important, this is my pattern. So I'll just write a little P on this, little pattern. And I'm going to hold these so that they're all the same direction, so that when I cut them, I'm just going to do one, do another, do another. The other thing is that these are the same thickness as each other. I'm going to bring these over now that I think of it, so I custom cut it to fit into that leg. Come on. Damn. We're in a tight spot. Just dropped my pencil. I said I'm not going to use a regular blade. I'm going to switch to the dado head. Watch how fast I do this. Fence gets slid out. The blade is up. It's dangerous. The power's on. Hold that spot. He shuts the power off from the breaker, just to be on the safe side, because he loves his fingers. Open end wrench, come on baby. You're there? Throat plate only comes out from the front because of the pin on the back. Saw blade, if I move the wrench, oh, I need a piece of scrap wood, a little piece of scrap wood. I'll take this piece of scrap wood. I have to block the blade from spinning. Open end wrench goes on the nut. Which direction do I turn the nut in order to loosen it? A question. On the table saw, on the chop saw, on the radial arm saw, which direction do you turn the nut to loosen? Always towards you to loosen. These are the only things that are towards you to loosen because those nuts are left-hand threaded. Yes, indeed. You might have seen a lesson like that before. I don't drop the washer. I don't drop the nut. Take the blade off. Put it on something wood. Take the dado head. Come on, dado head. And now I'm going to make a sandwich. What do you start with when you make a sandwich? A piece of bread. Here's my piece of bread. It's a blade. The teeth are facing towards me. I'm going to put it right over top of that threaded shaft, which is called an arbor. Ironically enough, it's what everybody celebrates around this time. Those threaded shafts on the table saw, because everyone celebrates Arbor Day. Yes, indeed. What's this thing? A Chinese ninja throwing star? Nope. A chipper. Teeth facing towards me. How thick is that chipper? How thick is that blade? Possibly another question. Each one of those is 1/8 of an inch. So if I put 4 of these bad boys on here, plus 2 blades, how thick of a dado head am I cutting? Perhaps another question. What do I get in terms of a thickness if I put 2 blades on and 4 chippers, and each one of them is 1/8 of an inch? Do I tell you the correct answer, or do I have you figure it out? Notice the chippers when I put in there, they were kind of staggered. I don't line them up exactly even. Now I'm going to tighten this, so my scrap wood now goes on the back side. I'm going to take the nut. Watch my face. Look. Check how tight I make this. Look. I think everybody's probably experienced that today at some point. I don't make it super tight. I just make it snug tight. Of course, I don't want it loose, but I definitely want that holding together. Next thing, larger throat plate. That goes on. The blade height. Now, I want to cut this, I said to you, probably about maybe half the thickness of this wood. I think about half the thickness of the wood. Does that look about half the thickness of the wood to you? How did he do that? Well, when you get to be 62 years old and you teach shop for 40 years, that looks like it's about half the thickness of the wood. I put that mark there because that's the side that's going to go down. I am going to raise the blade height because that's what you do first. You raise the blade height and then you set the fence. Maybe that should be another question. Man, we got so many questions today. The blade height is set. I'm going to make this a little bit less, and I'm going to tighten down my center blade height adjustment lock. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the fence. We said the distance from here to here was how high up? 4 inches. I knew that. I'm going to set the fence at 4 inches. Lock the fence down. I'm all set to make a cut. I would be taking my life into my own hands. And this is a great example of this. If I were to turn this saw on and pull one of these, you are king of the jackasses and you're going to eat this piece of wood for lunch because it'll shoot back at you as fast as look at you. How do I cross-cut safely on this table saw? Maybe that should be another question. Oh my God, cameraman's going, we can't write this many questions. To safely cut, you know what I'm going to do? I'll just selectively go through this. To safely cut, to safely cross-cut. Areas where you don't have a lot of wood up against the fence, I'm going to use my old friend, the miter gauge. Take the miter gauge, put it into the grooves on the table saw, which are like the greatest invention of all time. I'm all set to make the cut. I turn this thing on. Do I turn it on? No, I don't, because there would be no power. So what I want to do is, I want to go back to the breaker. I told you we were running around today. You didn't believe me. Turn the power on. I'm all set. Oh, I know. I have no time. No time. wet my finger so I can hold on to this. Here's the other thing. On this cut, we'll see if it chips more than a regular blade, which is the reason why if I can get away with a regular blade when I make a dado head, a dado cut, I'll usually do that. I always think it's kind of advantageous just to take your time. But in this case, we got a lot of dados and I don't have a lot of time to do this in. Safety glasses on, sleeves rolled up, nobody around, everybody okay. What I'm gonna do is take my left hand holds the stock up against the fence and the miter gauge. And what I'll do is my right hand always goes on the silver knob. The thing that stinks about this is if you're left-handed, you're gonna be using it from not your strong hands. That's what's really crazy about all these woodworking machines. Everything is meant for a right-handed person, and I do sympathize with left-handed people, but unfortunately, the way it's made is the way you want it to work safely for you. So you're gonna have to use your hands that way. When I turn this on, that was a cough, wasn't a sneeze. 2 coughs. When I turn this on, it's gonna sound like a motorboat. And when I pass this thing through, you want to take your time so you don't splinter out the back side of it. Remember, I put a mark there, and that's the surface that's going to go face down on my table saw. Here we go. I'll start the cut. What I'm going to do is ask the cameraman, come over this side. Shoot them that way, and you'll be able to see the dado come out through there. Super slow. And that's pretty clean. That's not bad. Didn't chip out. I think I made the right decision. Does this piece fit in here? Nope. I'm going to have to make this wider. The dumbest thing you can do is loosen up the fence and make the cut again and finish one of these. Whatever you do to one, you want to do to the other. Don't get it to fit in one and then you go back to the setting of 4 inches, if you know what I mean. So I made this cut on this one. Where's my line? There it is. I'm going to make this cut on this one. I do that on every single one. Wow, it didn't chip at all. The other thing is, like we're working with spruce, which is super light, super soft. And if I went faster, I know it would chip. That's pretty good. There's the chip. There it is. And if you look, it's usually around the knot, which it is. I'll probably get rid of that after I make my next cut. I think this was the one I marked because that line lines up pretty well. This bottom support doesn't fit in there. So I'm going to move this out. How wide can I move this out? Well, if this dado head is 3/4 of an inch wide, I can move it out 3/4. So right now I'm at 4. I can move this to 4 3/4, but I don't want to do it too wide where this flops around in there. I want it to fit in there nice and snug. So let's try this. If I'm at 4, I'm going to move it to like 4 5/8 or so. And I'm going to make a little test cut and see if that piece, that bottom support fits in there. I'm not going to do it on this one that's got a knot. I'll do it on any of these other ones. I'm going to make the same cut, but watch what I do when I do this. I'm just going to touch it a little bit. And now I get the piece that's supposed to fit in there, and I want to see if this thing fits in. It doesn't. So I still have to go probably maybe another 3/16 or so. So at this setting, I'm going to leave it like this, and I'm going to cut all the pieces again. See how that chipped out? So there's my dado. Here's the piece that has to fit in, still doesn't fit in, but I can cut all my other pieces. But you're going to notice, whoop, there it is. Watch yourself, cameraman, watch yourself, cameraman. They're the chips that I don't like, and that was the one that was around the knob. I go slow, and if it's not around the knot, it's going to come out a little bit better. Last one. If you do this with an individual blade, you would just keep on moving your fence out an eighth of an inch. Now this is the cut that I wanted to fit in there nice and snug and tight. Remember, it's going this way, it's not going this way, okay? So if I look at that, it looks to me like another 3/16 or so. So watch what I do here. I'm at like 4 5/8. Again, I can always go further out. I can never glue the sawdust back in. I'm gonna go to 4 3/4 here, and I'm just gonna make a test cut. Just a little bit, right there. Now I'm gonna take my piece that has to fit in, do it the right way. Nope, it still doesn't fit in. I'm gonna move it out a hair more. Up, up. I'll make another test cut. And I'll check it. Ooh, that fits nice. I actually thought that it wasn't gonna fit, but yeah, that fits very nice. I'm happy with that. So this is gonna be my final cut for that dado. And that piece should fit in there snug. Oh man, I like the way that looks. That fits well. That's the way it's actually gonna go. I'm gonna do that to all the other legs. And you can see how that chip, but it's gonna be kind of on the inside. Kind of scared me. I'm all set. That looks pretty good. Here's the other thing with these. Some people might note that this is not half the depth of that leg. And I kind of did that purposely because I don't like this leg to be weakened. The deeper you cut this dado in, the weaker that piece becomes. So what I'm gonna do is when I cut my rabbet on this piece, I'm gonna cut the rabbet a little bit deeper so it comes all the way out and it's even with the surface. So now I'm gonna take these pieces, because I marked which way the rabbet's gonna go, I can actually make that rabbet cut on the table saw using the dado head, the same situation that I have here. And it's not gonna take me a long time to do it. So I'm gonna take my legs, I'm gonna slide these over here. I'm just gonna take one of them to use as a guide. And now when you look at this cut is gonna be made the same distance in as the width of this board. So similar to the way I did it on the dado head where I made a cut to fit perfect, I want this to fit perfect to this shoulder. So to do this, the first cut that I'm gonna make is actually kind of a scary cut. I'm gonna take the edge of this fence and put it right up against the blade. I don't wanna put it into the fence because stuff like this happens where somebody moved the fence while the saw blade was spinning and it cuts into the fence. Now that wasn't too bad. Remember that I could replace this fence with another board. I don't need to do that. I'm gonna set this to the 0 mark, or so that blade, the inside tooth of the blade, is gonna be right up against the fence, but it's not gonna make contact. I could probably move it in a little bit more. Move it in a hair more. I'm not gonna touch it because I hate touching this blade, but if I spin it, it will spin loosely. The little piece that's left over on this end, I could just chip off. So now what I'm gonna do is use the miter gauge in conjunction with the fence, and what I'm gonna do is cut rabbets on the ends of each one of those side pieces. So check it out. And again, if I didn't have the dado head set up, I would just do this with an individual blade. This is where that side support goes in. Yeah, the side support goes in here, so this part's going into my leg. Think it's the hard part? I've heard that before. Same way as I did it with the dado head. It couldn't ship out. So there's that little piece. To clean up that little piece, what I can just do is move it anywhere on the blade and I cut that off. It's an easy way to do it. If you want to see what I'm going to get, now I just made one cut. Well, if I put this in here, you see how that part sticks out past the leg, the surface of the leg. And this is what I would have if I do this on the backside, if I leave it at that measurement. That's not bad, but I think I'm going to raise that up a little bit higher. I don't know that I want it even. I kind of like the way that looks set back in a little bit. I think that looks kind of cool to that rounded over part. I don't know. You know what? I like the way this rounds over, and I like the way that rounds over. I think I'm going to leave it like that. More times than not, anytime I screw up, sometimes screwing up looks better than if you calculate it. Because when I calculated, I was going to cut it so it's even here, but I think it looked better just like this. I'm going to leave it just like this. So I'm going to cut a rabbet here, rabbet on these, and then I'll move the fence out to get the width that I need it to be. Is that right? Yep. Then I have that little piece left over anywhere in the dado head. By the way, I just got a little nasty shot at it. Here's the rabbet. Side support, where's the side support? Side support's going here, so that's going that way. Here's my cut, take the middle out. Here's my cut. And the faster you go at this, the more it chips. That's what I found out. Now the one thing I definitely do want to do is have this end come even with this end, edge rather. Definitely want to do that. So when I do this, I'm going to move this over. To me, that looks like about 3/4 of an inch. Right now, what am I set to? I'm set at 0. Just like I did it before, I want to be conservative. I'm going to go 5/8 of an inch and make it another test cut and see if that works. Cut a little bit. And now what I want to do is place this here and see if it comes out even. That's not bad. That's not bad. But I'm still off maybe about 1/8 of an inch. So I'll move it out to that 3/4 mark. I'll make another test cut. I'll put that in there. This comes out exactly flush. Wow, not bad. I'll finish the cut on all 4 of these. If I have anything left in the middle, if I go back over it, that'll clean it up. So there's definitely more chipping more the faster I do it. So speed is definitely something that you want to take your time. That's it. Bottom supports might be done. So I'm going to take this bad boy, place it there, slide it over. Man, I think that looks pretty good. I like the way that sticks in, rounds over. I like the way that sets back. I think that looks pretty cool. What do you think? And then what we'll do the next time is we'll get that side support. We'll figure out how long the top's going to be, and I'll show you how to center a dado on that side support. I'm really moving along with this, folks. With only a few lessons, I have these supports done. I have my legs all done. And pretty soon I'll be putting this together. You know what? We're going to have a garden party before you ever realize it. We're going to get our plants out, maybe a few cool drinks. We'll be all set, okay? And no sanding. That's the best part of it. Meet you back for that long stretcher. We'll get that piece, cut some dados out, and get the crux of the whole project together. See you next time.